Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Katie Baker, a writer, trauma survivor, and advocate whose memoir, When the Diverse Holds Your Hair Back, shares a raw and deeply honest journey from childhood, abuse, and addiction to healing and hope. Through her story and inner work, Katie helps people confront their past, break cycles, and realize that no matter how far gone they feel, change is still possible. Katie, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, so I want us to start from the beginning, which is your story, right? So your memoir is described as raw and unflinching. So what made you decide to share your story so openly?
Well, there was a couple reasons. I thought that, a lot of people were struggling in our community, in our country, really across the world in different ways. And I thought it's time for us to be totally honest, or it was time for me to be totally honest in the hopes that it might help others. I couldn't do that by telling half truths or half the story. I had to really kind of dig deep and lay everything out there, kind of lay bare to what I had experienced and how I worked through it so that hopefully it helped others. I just recognized that I was talking to people like going down the street or in the supermarket or whatever, and they would kind of whisper to me or tell me privately what they were experiencing. And I recognized that there was a lot of people experiencing all of these different things that were happening in their lives, but they weren't sharing them broadly for obvious reasons. It's pretty hard to do, but I thought, let me put my story down there, and be as honest as possible and see what comes of it. And maybe it'll start opening conversations and allow others to really express what they're going through in the hopes that we can work through it together.
Right. Wow. Okay. So thank you so much for that, actually. I feel like it actually really creates the atmosphere where people get to share their own story also. And yes, you talked about appearing fine. You talk about, looking okay on the outside while struggling internally. I'd like to know how common that experience is and why do you think it often happens to people?
I think it's super common. I think it's unfortunately just a norm that people are functioning. They have to go to work, they have to raise their kids, they have to sort of go through the motions of life. And often that means a detachment from maybe their emotions or what they're actually feeling or what they actually want in their lives. I think that it just seems that it's really common for people, who might be successful from all outside appearances to look like they have it all together. I learned this lesson the hard way when a family member um, died by suicide, and I thought she really had it all together. She was gorgeous, and she was a runner, and she ran in the Boston Marathon, and was beautiful and successful. And I thought, oh my gosh, she has it all together. Her house always looks perfect. Um, and then she died, by suicide. And so I think that that really got me thinking just in terms of my own life, where am I actually not okay? I'm not doing okay. And then I'm pretending that I am doing okay so that people will think I have it together, that I'm making it through this life as successfully as possible. And it was actually my son who kind of brought it to my attention that, things were sort of falling apart around me. And I just put on that false presentation where I think so many people do, right? But they may go out into the world and get what they need to get done, but then come into their homes at night and kind of fall apart or drink too much or, um, hide themselves in food or whatever, numbing agents that they can find, and then go and do it all over again.
All right. Wow. Good. Well, in my generation, I think it's a common thing, right? Most people just trying to look okay outside, but inside they are not okay. right? So, talking about, breaking the silence, it takes a lot to actually break the silence and try to talk to someone and tell them you're not okay. So, I want to know what happens when someone finally stops suppressing their pain and starts facing it and even starts speaking up.
I think that's where our true power lies.
Mm.
When we can be vulnerable and open with someone and have a conversation and say, I'm actually not doing okay. And I think so oftentimes we walk through the world alone, feeling like we are that all these emotions are just unique to us as an individual, when we haven't given the opportunity to those around us to also be there and say, I have this going on. I'm struggling with anxiety, or I'm struggling with fear, or I'm sad. I think so oftentimes we've kind of lost the ability to actually express how we feel, and to those who matter most or those we trust. And I think really what it starts with is just that initial openness and opportunity to let someone show up for you, so that we don't have to do it alone. Because what I think is an epidemic in our society now is really just the inability to voice how we're actually feeling. There is a lot going on in the world, in our communities and in our homes, that we just need support, right? And this is almost I feel like an opportunity to band together and work in community to heal, because I think whatever we are doing as a society or as an individual, it's just not working. It hasn't been working for a long time, and we see the problems are only getting worse. And so I think that true freedom comes through recognizing, like, yes, I'm not okay. And yes, I need help. And yes, I'm strong and I can do this. It's like just taking those initial couple steps. But the denial of the things that we are facing, the emotions, the hardship, whatever it is, um, only can, as I see it, only can leave us feeling more alone. And maybe what if we have a community that we can rely on, or we choose to live like one thing differently each day, right? Or if someone asks us, or how are you doing? Instead of just reporting back like, okay, I'm doing great, um, maybe just being a little bit more honest with that, because I think it's through that rote sort of answering of, I'm okay, I'm doing good. Well, that's not the truth, maybe, if we're really struggling. And so what I see is, if we have the opportunity to really just express how we're feeling and doing, then we get the opportunity to gain our power back, to get true freedom, to recognize that we are not alone, and maybe try things differently than we've always done and see what comes to fruition from that process.
All right, wow. Okay, thank you. You said true freedom
Mhm.
comes when you acknowledge that you actually need healing, right? It's
Mm.
when you acknowledge these things. And yeah, talking about healing, um, healing isn't linear, right? So what do you think are some misconceptions people have about healing and recovery?
Mhm. Well, for me in particular, you're right. It's not linear. It can be really challenging, and there's a lot of hardship that is faced just through, you know, that process. But what happened for me in particular is I was almost disconnected from my emotions, kind of that going through the motions of the day. And I never really sat down and thought about, how am I feeling? What's missing? Um, and I think that it was really hard to have those emotions almost plugged back into my body. And like, for example, what I wrote about in the book is joy. When I felt joy again, I was like, I don't even know the last time that I felt joy in particular. So I think it's just like, it's hard to get in touch with our emotions, especially when we're living kind of blindly and we're going through life without really having to think about it because it might feel too painful. But then for me in particular, what I recognized is, I was like, I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel lighter. Like, I feel like I can actually do this, that I might be able to help myself heal. in whatever capacity I can on any given day. And I think that's where I recognize like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be okay. And some days are hard, like even this morning I was in a workout class and I was like, I have a little bit of issues going on, not anything major for sure, but I was like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, why did I come to this class? And I was just checking myself, like, watch the story that I tell myself, watch my language, maybe like I'm recovering, it's going to take me a little bit and I'm going to feel tired. And, um, I'm really fortunate that I get to go to a workout class and use my body in that way. So maybe turning that to gratitude. So I caught myself.
Mm. Okay. So, we've spoken about healing, right, and the common misconceptions around it, which leads me to, trauma and identity, right? So, I feel, right, how does unresolved trauma shape the way we see ourselves?
Yeah, I think for so long, it was kind of an interesting thing for me. I had a lot of childhood abuse, and although I said it didn't define me, it did because it kept me stuck in the same place over and over doing the same thing. Kind of scared of facing the past, but also scared of moving forward. And so I was stagnant. And so I think in particular that um, I'm trying to recall the question. I actually kind of lost that. Can you do a quick prompt?
So,
Sorry.
yeah, how unresolved trauma shapes the way we see ourselves.
Yeah, I think sometimes we, meaning myself, can get stuck in the story of that trauma, right?
Mm.
That I'm never going to be perfect, which I don't believe in that word anymore, or I'm never going to be good enough, or I'm damaged, right? I have all this shame. Look what happened to me. And so those stories become the narratives of our life sometimes, and they can just be in the background, like we don't even recognize them, right? But they're defining how we engage and who we are out in the world. And I think that it's so important and critical to be able to recognize those stories. And oftentimes we will catch, if you can pay attention, trauma can be that story, that defining can define us as individuals. And I think when we release that or recognize, like, oh, I'm not filled with shame because of what somebody did to me. Like, I'm not taking that on. Return to sender. And then we can change our stories, right? When we
Mm.
recognize our stories and what we've been telling ourselves in the background and what we tell people, like, well, people say, tell me about your childhood. What are you catching yourself in there? And for me, as I processed through the healing and did that journey, I think that it was recognizing that story, how it no longer defined nor limited me. And also, I wanted to create a different story for myself. That at some point, uh, I didn't want that to be who I was or what happened to me. I wanted to be more than that. And that was the life I was interested in creating.
So it's about creating the life you want, right? It's not the life that you lived or not a life that has been shaped by trauma, right? It's about creating the life you actually really want for yourself. Okay, so thank you so much for that. And I want us to explore the themes of, psychedelics and healing, right? You've explored therapeutic psychedelics. So what role did that play in your healing journey?
Well, it was monumental. It was probably the biggest thing that helped me because I had done therapy and I had sort of done all the things um, to deal with, what to deal with. That's a perfect phrase, but to deal with the childhood trauma, I just kept always saying, I'm okay. Look, I'm doing all these jobs. I'm, busy at my kid's school. I'm doing like, I was successful from all outside appearances, but I think that I wasn't doing okay and I didn't know how to break through. Like I literally wanted to heal so badly, but I didn't have the tools and resources available to me to know how. And with therapeutic psychedelics in particular, it's very different because you go in with an intention and with integration and with It's very much healing focused. You are recognizing that you're doing it for a purpose. And I think that that was a critical first step for me to actually say, okay, I'm not doing okay. I remember like one of the first ceremonies that I did, I ended up crying for hours and hours and I couldn't stop crying. But what I recognized is I hadn't allowed myself to cry like that forever. Maybe, I mean, I don't ever remember myself, even as a child. It was just like when that stuff happened to me, it was like, you get through. This is survival, not acknowledgement of what happened in the past. This is just, you just keep going. And so, as an adult, to weep for hours and hours without stopping, it was very significant for me in terms of, oh, like, it's because when you deny the feelings that they even exist, they don't go away. They're just stored in the body, right? And the tears were symbolic of releasing all that had transpired and kind of getting me back to recognizing, oh, this it's okay to feel. It's okay to acknowledge.
Okay, so yes, thank you so much, right, for that.
Mhm.
And I'd like to talk, like, I would like us to talk about, survival, right? You went from survival to rebuilding. So what does rebuilding your life actually look like after everything unravels?
Yeah, it was a process for sure. And so I think that survival for me, what it meant for me was just getting through my days, um, doing what I could to just make it to the next day. Like, Lord, please just get me to the next day. And then I think that when I go through a process of review in terms of looking at everything that has happened in my life and what the impact was and how it not only back, when I was a child, let's say, but also as an adult. And I think at some point I recognized, like, that I became my own abuser and my own perpetrator. Maybe by the way I like shamed myself if I ate an, extra cookie or whatever it is, like catching myself in that process. And so I think survival into just thriving is it is completely night and day difference because it gives you an opportunity to be a human and afford yourself a grace as you navigate and walk through the world, which can be really tough for, we're here on planet Earth and it is not an easy job oftentimes to get through this one human life, And I think that for me, the survival was like not seeing, it was like walking around with a blindfold on, not really seeing the world for all that it was. And the awakening and the coming to, which was a hard, rocky process, right? It's like riding a roller coaster. Some days are up and some days are horrible and down, right? But then at the end of the day, like, and especially like a year or two, now it's been 3 years since I started that process, but you can wake up with, it's like putting on a new pair of glasses where you see, oh, like there's a flower, there's sunshine. I actually survived that, and I didn't think I would. Um, and to be able to honor the human being that you are that made it through the tough stuff, and that it doesn't break you as a human being. It like bent me, right? It was hard and challenging, but there is an ability to kind of bounce back and actually grow and see the sunshine and recognize life for all it is and the love that is there. But I think that so many people, myself included, for a time, for a really long time, aren't able to see that, right? Because we get stuck in our stories and the sadness and the sorrow, and yeah, the definition of us at that time.
Okay, so yes, I think this has been interesting, right? Because it has been powerful because it's an honest conversation. It's one that resonates with anyone that's navigating pain, healing, and transformation. And I believe that to heal is possible. It might take a while, it might take a long time, but to heal is definitely possible. And yes, everyone goes through pain. Some are really, really unbearable, while some of those pains are something we could work on. But if you can sit and look at the life you really want for yourself, like you said, if you think about the life you want for yourself, a life that is full of self-love and a healed path, it is something that is possible to achieve if you put your mind to it. If you can look past the pain, even though it's not easy, it's possible. It's possible. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves happiness, sincere happiness. Everyone on earth deserves it. That's what I believe. And everyone deserves healing too. Okay, so yes, thank you so much, Katie. This has
Yeah.
been amazing, actually.
Thank
And
you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
all right, so yes, it brings me to my final segment, right? It's called the rapid fire segment. Okay, so starting now, right? Pain teaches.
Self-love through discovery.
Well, growth requires.
What was the first word?
Growth requires
Groove.
growth.
Groove. Um, I think I'm still my speakers aren't going very loud. Did you say groove? Groove?
No, growth. Growth.
Oh, growth. Thank you. Thanks. Growth
Mm,
requires I want to say self-analysis
mm, okay. Okay. And finally, hope is
for everyone.
okay. Hope is for everyone. Very, very, that's very, unique. Actually, that's a unique answer. And I think definitely it's for everyone to know. Right. So yes, Katie, where can listeners get to know more about you and what you do?
Well, my website is peaceandfirehealing.com, and the book is called When the Universe Holds Your Hair Back, and that's available on all major channels, Amazon, Audible, Spotify. I did an audiobook too. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. I think I'll be more interested in the audiobook.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love to hear rather than read.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you so much, Katie. This has been
Thank you.
amazing. All right.
Yeah.
To my listeners, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Okay, Katie, I would actually love us to keep in touch after this if you don't mind.
Yeah. I would love to. Thank
All
you.
right. So yeah, I'll reach out to you. Do have a
Okay.
wonderful day.
You too. Take care.